Greetings and welcome to Patent Insider Secrets, our weekly Twitter space. We're adding today to the LinkedIn. We had some technical difficulties with the stream, but it looks like everything is working. So we're going to cross fingers, hope everything stays up. We're able to stream this live. Today we're going to be talking about bulletproof patent positioning. In the lead up to this, what we discussed, we said that we're going to be talking about the best way for you as a startup to look at getting IP protection, specifically positioning your startup and leveraging your IP to earn a ton of revenue without having to chase after it. What we mean by that, you want to answer questions as a startup when you're going through your list. If you're early stage, heck, even if you're, seed stage or you've gotten some serious revenue, you want to know, is getting IP protection worth it for your startup? Is it even something that you need? Every startup does not need intellectual property protection. So we want to know, first of all, is it something we even need? If it is, what should I do first? What's the best strategy to fortify and protect my startup? How do I leverage my IP to bolster my exit strategy? So in this live workshop today, we'll look at this. We're going to look at why do you need IP protection? We're going to see what results will getting it provide for you, and we're going to try to help you understand where you should start. We'll also have opportunity for you to chime in and ask questions. So you can, if you want to follow up with us, you can always text patent, PATENT, to 33777. You can text that to us. That'll get you added to our mailing list or newsletter. And we'll see who we have here. This should be appropriate for founders, CEOs of either small businesses, small business owners and creatives, or startups. We talk about startups, we're talking about different levels. You have bootstrappers and pre-seed. This is usually going to be under 250K, maybe under $500,000. In these levels, probably, founders not making any money, not necessarily taking a salary. Heck, even seed level, like seed level up to 5 to 10 million in capital. Most of that money is going to developing MVP. If it's a SaaS company, looking at hiring the right team, making sure the marketing and customer retention, all those things are going well. And then you have more sophisticated startups that figured out the process, figured out how to make money, figured out how to deliver what they need to the consumer, and to keep themselves alive, sustain the flow, the up and down, the ebb and flow of business. They're more sophisticated. They may have some VC funding. They've probably gone through a couple of rounds, Series A, Series B, and then you have the mature enterprise level startups that are really calling them startups at this point. It's probably just for the sake of the time they've been around, but they're mature. They're pre-IPO or post-IPO. So that's what this is for. And again, I said, we're going to answer these questions. You keep this in mind. Is getting IP protection worth it for your startup? What should you do first? What is your best strategy to fortify and protect your startup? And how do you leverage your IP to bolster your exit strategy? We also look at, why. I want you to think about this. Why do you want, or why would you need IP protection? What results will getting it provide for you? And where should you get started? So let's look at the typical story. One thing, we'll give you a blueprint as well for a more effective way to think about patents and IP for your startup. So this is going to be informative, educational. We're going to give real nuggets here on how to help you think about patents and IP for your startup. And if you stick around, we have a free gift at the end of this. So let's think of when you're building a startup, you're trying to figure out, you have a problem that you're solving. You're trying to figure out how to stay alive. How do you keep money flowing into the business? And you're looking at, what do I need to do? A lot of times when it comes to doing that process, you're lost. You don't know which way to go. You don't know up from down. You don't know what is going to get you to where you need to go. In business, this is Good Friday today. So sometimes you look at the map and you pray. and you just hope and pray, and that's how you get through it. Another thing that we tend to see is this is what happens when you don't have a target. You don't know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. This is just as much as true for startups and intellectual property as it is for your startup and business in general. You have to have a target. You have to have a destination. Once you identify that, you can find exactly where you want to be. If you're going to Florida, you say, okay, I have a map. Now I know I'm going to go to Disney World. Let's go to Orlando. And it's very clear how we get there. I know where I want to go. I can figure out I want to go bus, train, plane, automobile. So it helps to know where you're going. Once you have a goal, all your team can come together. You can work out everything, and we can focus on the goal. We can hire the right people that we need. We can make the right adjustments. We can adapt and shoot for that goal. We shoot for that goal. We can hit the bullseye. We keep aiming, but we should eventually be able to hit the bullseye, capture the flag, get to our destination, and celebrate. This is what it feels like. You've run the race. You've crossing the finish line. And you win again, win more. And you have the hockey stick at the end of your profit and P&L statement. You've ridden the startup rocket. You've gotten an IPO. You've become a unicorn, and you are swimming in the money. At least this is what it looks like, right? This is what it's supposed to be. Now, what happens is the pressures to make these adjustments, the pressures to make these capital gains, think about taxes, but to make these profits for your business, for your startup, to get traction and all of these things. As we do this with that focus, a lot of times we forget to secure the things that are very important. Secure the things that are important to our success. And when we do that, what happens? We get hit with an IP disaster. Or we get hit with a business disaster. Things don't go how we thought they would go. It's not that pretty path that we illustrated in those pictures. It's something else. So what does that look like? Specifically, again, remember, we're talking about patents and intellectual property. We want to keep it focused. We want to keep this, pretty focused, brief, but also, relevant. What it looks like is this. Now, this guy is a VC on Twitter. Now, he has a lot of kooky tweets. This could be sarcasm. It could be very real. Didn't respond to some of my DMs on it, but I'll see if we can find out some more information. But he posted this picture of a company celebrating on NASDAQ. And he said, 8 years ago, a founder accidentally emailed me, typo. We played along, we met up, and I agreed to lead the seed round. 2 years later, I led the Series A and joined the board. 5 years later, Amazon copied their product, and I lost my entire investment in a week. This isn't us. Now, that's kind of tongue-in-cheek. There may be some exaggeration. It may not have actually been a week, but this is real. This happens all the time. If you look at Instacart, it's a darling right now, but how many versions or other companies like Instacart existed before? How much of Instacart's success was because there was a pandemic, a once in a century pandemic, and a lockdown and quarantine, and people being at home, people being afraid to go outside? How much did Instacart benefit from timing? So there are a lot of factors, and there's something, we'll probably do a case study on this in the future, but there was a story of Amazon's Alexa project investing in startups or making proposals to invest in startups and then releasing competing products. So this is possible. This is something that happens. Now, let's look at a few more examples, and we'll talk about how you as your startup can position yourself where you can take advantage of the opportunities, but also make sure that you have the right strategies in place. Make sure that you're thinking about intellectual property in the proper way so that you have legal recourse in case any of these things happens. In fact, you're actually mitigating risk by having the right strategy in place. Let's look at another example. This is a case study. This is Droplets is a tech company, that they have a very unique way of using uh, their software they've created to allow uh, quickly updating web pages. So they use a thin client connection to allow you to quickly update images uh, on a website quickly if you're clicking through. And so a lot of larger companies have adapted this. It's become so mainstream in its use that they've been able, they had patented technology. They've been able to win multiple patent infringement suits. One against Amazon recently for $15 million, an undisclosed settlement against Adobe, and then before that, it was against 15 million against Overstock. So this is not necessarily a business model that I would recommend per se. This is not a business model I'd recommend per se, but we do want to make sure that we are clear with regard to $15 million wins in patent infringement cases for your technology that you've built that's been used, and this may potentially also result in some licensing going forward to avoid further suits. So we want to make sure that this is just an example. We'll talk about the merits and the details a little bit later as we kind of wrap up. Another patent infringement suit. This is a small company, Genuine Enabling Technology. This is a company, Genuine Enabling Technology LLC. We have them in a patent infringement suit against Nintendo. It's been seems like we keep going mute on and off on both of our platforms. We'll get this together. We'll work with our tech team, make sure that we present this uninterrupted to you. But Impossible Foods basically has a strong, robust patent portfolio. At the same time, Impossible Foods also allows for they existed prior to Motif Foodworks Inc. coming into existence, and the CEO or co-founder of Motif Foodworks Inc. in their launch on CNBC, one of the interviews said that they looked at the success of Motif of Impossible Foods as a pathway for them to move forward. So a lot of flags there, but what happens is this hemoprotein that they use of Impossible products is also the same protein that they're using for Motif Food Works. So this is going to be a legal battle. We'll see how it results. This is just, we're trying to give you examples of how intellectual property is used and how it's part of various startups that may now be, unicorn companies, but how they're leveraging that and what they're doing to enforce it. Another example, everyone's familiar with Clubhouse. Clubhouse was a Silicon Valley darling last year during the pandemic. It came out to much fanfare, very difficult to try to get into. But once it started, it's a social media audio app. Well, they were sued. After all the fanfare, having all the teams, having all the publicity, they were sued for trademark infringement. And it was another company called The Clubhouse app. They were a sports networking site talking about baseball, mostly baseball clubhouses. As we know, that's the management or front office is called. The players' locker room and where the players are, the manager, it's called the clubhouse. So they were sued. And of course, there's a undisclosed settlement. So we don't know what the number is, but I can assure you that the number that they reached, of the settlement they reached, is much cheaper, or more expensive rather than the cost of getting a trademark. And this is one that's always baffling. The Cleveland Guardians is, that's the name of the former team formerly known as the Cleveland Indians. They are in a trademark dispute with the Cleveland Guardians roller derby team. But the reality is the Cleveland Guardians roller derby team has had the name for years, and the Cleveland Guardians is new. So this is again another undisclosed settlement, and there's probably some sharing or some agreement for use. But again, the cost, this multi-million-dollar rollout and rebranding of the Cleveland Indians to the Cleveland Guardians, we see that the not thinking about or considering the impact of not having proper IP strategy, how that impacted them. So this is the question. He said, looking at these things, we see how you can tie startup success to a bolstered or positive IP strategy. We also see how a lack of an IP strategy can also spell doom in some instances, and otherwise just problems and IP disasters that you don't want to have to deal with for your startup. So this is a lot of the questions. What should I do first? How much does it cost? How long does it take? Is it patentable? Is it worth it? A lot of this is going to really come, I would say the answer to these questions is that we don't start with these questions. The question is, we start with why? Why, do you even need IP protection? We need to evaluate what type of intellectual property is involved in your startup. Some startups have, patentable technology. Some startups don't. So for a startup that does not and is not in the business of creating patentable technology, a patent doesn't make sense. Now, for those that have disrupted technology and it's essential, at the same time, it basically is the cornerstone of their business to have patent protection, as we saw with the Droplets Inc. Example, and we saw with the Impossible Foods example. Having these particular, there would be no wins and no way to defend their position without having a strong patent portfolio and having a means to enforce it. So really, and for the company, we said before, that does not have any IP or does not need patent protection, maybe they need brand protection. We just gave the example of the Cleveland Guardians versus the Cleveland Guardians, or the Clubhouse app versus Clubhouse app. So those things, those aren't necessarily patents, but those are trademarks that protect the brand name. So do you own the name of your business? These are things that are very important to think about. Why should it make sense? Does it make sense? You need to evaluate whether you have, copyright, a trademark, or patent needs for your particular startup. And if it doesn't make sense now, is it going to make sense in the future? Where do you want to go? So we want to know, you have to identify, just like we said, in looking at business, that same thing is true for your actual startup, for your IP strategy. Where do you want to go? An example, let's say you want to be acquired by a certain type of company, maybe you're fintech. You want to be acquired by a bank or an investment firm. Well, if you're looking to be acquired by a Bank of America type company, know that Bank of America, their last acquisition, usually it's banks, but their last acquisition was a payment platform. So you want to look at what they're investing in. They were granted over 500 patents last year, and they're investing in fintech, blockchain, crypto types of technologies. So you want to see if you're positioning yourself to be acquired by Bank of America. You want to know what Bank of America is investing in. You want to know what their patents are, and you want to see does your company make sense for the technology they're investing in. And you want to position yourself for that strategy. So this doesn't happen by accident. It's very intentional. You want to start now, wherever you are in your startup, as opposed to reacting to an IP disaster when it happens. So, so that's it. If we have any questions, we'll take them. The next thing is the free gift. If you stick around, you can get the free gift, and it's a free download. It's basically Patent Insider's Complete Guide to Patent Law. Check it out. It goes over the basics of intellectual property. It goes pretty detailed into the basic concepts of patents, why you would need them, so you can get a better idea of whether it's something that's for you or not. This is some of the examples. Talks about the history, talks about the merits of patents. So that's it. That ends our workshop for this morning. Again, we'll continue to work out the technical difficulties. If you have any questions, please inbox us and DM us or hit the link in the bottom of the post. Thank you. This has been Patent Insider. Tariq Najila signing off.